Chapter 12, Image 15B, Untitled, Woman Greeting Mounted Soldier in 1906, Cellulose Nitrate Negative, 149 by 88 millimeters irregular. He digs for bodies. Tracing voices under debris, he finds a mother and daughter in matching dresses, with high-boned starched collars above dirt-streaked sashes. The two young sons of the owner of the hotel, one alive and one not, and an infant sucking a bottle, sweat-drenched and pink from the heat. It arrives in waves, the numbness that allows him to work as if the figures in the rubble are not real, not actual fingers and elbows and toes. There are times of mindlessness that come with the physical labor, as though he was a machine, iron levers and chain-covered gears lifting the bricks and bodies one by one. And then, unexpectedly, he finds a brass button from a coat painted with blood, still damp and sticky to the touch, and he stumbles away to seek refuge behind a wall, where he retches the yellow bile that has been churning in his gut for hours. William directs the volunteers, asking the women to tie handkerchiefs around wounds while the men stand under dangling power lines and continue digging. Dig, William says over and over again, so that it becomes white noise, a simple tempo marking the time while neighboring buildings fall and crumble around them. The hot stink of smoke weighs on the city while they work through the morning hours, and the man falls into the physical exertion of digging, tugging out bodies, and carrying the dead to one side of the street, leading survivors to the other, digging, tugging, carrying. Those who have been rescued cough dust as they rise to stand and eye the chaos. He thinks of wild animals as they claw at him, frantic and hungry for information. What's happened? They ask. Help me, they say. Find them. My father, my wife, my son is somewhere inside. It goes on like this until his arms shake and his undershirt drips with perspiration. The sun hovers above them, and each time the wind blows, he can taste it. The smoke and the scent of hair and skin smoldering. He finds two young girls in the debris, still warm but lifeless, their fingers splayed over their eyes as if they are looking into the sun. The man squats to scoop the first girl from the ground, and he gently folds her hands over her chest. But when he moves to lift her, his arms are shaking too badly. I'll do it, William says. Take a rest. The man crosses the street to sit and wishes again for a jug of water. His palms burn, and when he flips them over, he sees that his fingers are calloused and his cuticles are caked with dirt. He imagines he is part of the working middle class, though he can't recall what it is he does for employment. A woman approaches, retying her white apron around the waist of her long black dress as she walks. Her sand-colored hair has come loose from under her cap, her face streaked with ash, and her black stockings are torn. But she's beautiful still. The man stands when she reaches him and asks if she needs help. I suppose we all do now, don't we? She says, and then, do you mind? She holds out her hand, and he takes it so she can use him to steady her balance as she lowers herself to the curb. Well, go ahead, she says, motioning next to her as he sits as well. You were in the hotel? He asked, and she nods. I work in the cafe, the late shift. It's popular with the newspaper men since we stay open all night, she tells him, and nods to a group of men hovering in front of the hotel, men in suits and dark-colored ties, some with notepads tucked into their front pockets of their jackets, others with their pens and jotters in hand. The reporters drink and play cards here until 5, 6 in the morning, she says. It's a good job, the waitress sings. Smart customers and insider information about the city if you pay attention. The man nods as one of the young journalists crosses the street and heads towards them. Beatrice, the reporter says, tipping his cap first to the woman and then to the man. A word? Do you mind, sir? A statement, please? I'm not sure I can tell you anything, the man says. You were in the building when the quake hit? No, not me, he says. I'm just here to help. But the reporter presses on. Your family, then? Are they inside? I can't be certain, he says, recognizing the truth. I don't remember a thing. Next to him, the waitress sighs. Leaves him be, James. The journalist scratches on the notepad. I hear they're setting up a makeshift hospital at Mechanics Pavilion. You could try there if you don't find your family here. He finishes writing and tucks his pencil behind his ear before turning and crossing the street. See them, the waitress says. The man follows her eyes to a woman, thin and soft, easily defeated, if he has to imagine a flaw. Next to her, a young girl, stubborn and confident in her stance. The daughter, he guesses. The two are at once familiar, and he tries to place them. Neighbors, perhaps? Though he's not sure where his neighborhood is exactly. The wife and child of a friend, maybe? I served them hot chocolates late last night in the cafe, she tells him. They told me they were visiting San Francisco to see Carmen at the Grand Opera House, all the way from Los Angeles. Caruso stole the show, they said. The curtain call lasted 12 minutes. He watches the woman adjust her flounce skirt and the girl who is crouched down and is fooling with the tie of her boot. I bet they hardly remember the show now, the waitress says. Just before 8 o'clock, Army troops arrive and instruct the volunteers to clear out of the area. William argues, pick in hand, that there are still people buried in the wreckage. He can hear their voices crying under the debris, waiting, but the troops report fires raging on 6th Street and the neighborhood must be emptied. Columns of smoke rise around them as men in military uniforms from the California National Guard ride through on horses, shouting orders. The man and William are wordless as they walk the city streets under the hot, heavy air. Eventually, William confesses that he looks for his younger brother in each passing stranger. An artist, William says, a young man, only 20 last month, a wanderer who was sleeping in a warehouse on Folsom Street last I heard. The man nods and wonders how he would describe his own siblings if he were able to speak of them to William, but discovers no memory of brothers or sisters. He is an only child, he assumes. He recalls Italian opera music playing during dinner time when his mother stood in the kitchen cooking eggplant parmesan, and Catholic Mass at night on Christmas Eve, the three of them, he and his parents, sliding into a pew, flipping the pages of a hymn book. You'll help me? William asks as they step out of the street and onto the sidewalk to make way for a collection of army men on horseback. You'll be willing to help me look for my brother? Automatically, the man says, of course, we'll stick together and keep searching until we find him. You and I both, he tells William. It is there, in that declaration, that he finds a purpose in the chaos, and in that purpose, the man finds his first glimmer of hope.